Welcome back to the Reckless CEO podcast. I am excited for today's episode. So today I got a good friend, a partner, an ally, all of the above, right? I got Mr. Rhys Bennett with me today, and we're going to mix it up a little bit. We've, through the Reckless group and obviously with CRC, we've had some people reach out, had some questions they wanted to kind of ask. And so we're going to somewhat kind of do a free flow conversation. He's going to be asking some questions. I'm going to be answering kind of back and forth. So I'm excited to kind of get this one rolling. And before we do, Mr. Rhys Bennett, give us a little insight about you, bro. What, who are you? Where are you from? What you got going on, man?
100%, man. We got a lot going on together. My name is Rhys Bennett. I'm a college dropout. Saw what we had going on here at CRC. Absolutely loved it. Loved the culture. You've built an amazing culture here at Columbus Roofing Company. Love every minute about it. And we got Reckless Media Company together and the Reckless group that we're starting out. And super, super excited for what the future holds for us, man. Yeah.
And I, before we dive into that, I think we should talk about the story of how you got here, right? So, what was it? A year and a half, almost a full year now, right? Year and a half ago, probably?
I think it's been like a year and 7 months.
Yes.
It's been a while, actually.
Yeah, so year and 7 months ago, we were sponsoring an event, and Rhys was working at the event.
Yes.
And I always say, I was like, we connected on that first day. I had a bunch of hats, right? And I was like, you're like, hey, man, can I get one of them hats from you? And I was like, yeah, buddy, give you a hat. And we connected. And then he's like, I always say, he's like, dude, love the culture, right? He's like, I want to, come work for you guys and come in and start doing door to door.
Dope hat. It was such a cool
It was
hat.
a dope hat. It was a great hat. And, we get it. He comes in, he starts doing door to door and, just wasn't feeling the vibe. You know what I mean?
I didn't like it at the time.
No.
I just I didn't like speaking to new people. So taking the risk, even talking to you was huge for me.
Dude, that's awesome, bro. And so then he, kind of was going down that road. And then, I could just tell that it wasn't really fitting, what he wanted, but the buy-in was so big that I'm just like, man, I got to figure out, what this kid wants to do, and, obviously at that time I knew you were going back to school and I don't even know that I knew that you were actually in film or doing, that kind of stuff in school. Cause we sat down, I'm like, bro, what, I don't want to see you go, man, but what do you, what's your goal in life? You know what I mean? Oh, well, I'm going to school for media stuff. And I was like, well, shit, that's exactly what I need.
I remember hiding out in my car because I was out with Matt and Jaden at the time, but I would hide out in my car because I didn't want a door knock or anything like that. But it was just I didn't even know the concept of door knocking existed.
Yeah.
And it was just wild to me. I was like, I don't want to fucking disturb these people. So I was just hiding the whole time. But yeah, I went to school for film, music and video work. So that's just what I love to do, man.
It was already there. And I'm like, well, I need a guy. And so we talked Rhys into staying and then talked his parents into letting him drop out. And
100%.
so I had to have that conversation. His dad comes in. I'm like, man, I'm kind of a, I'm a chill CEO, you know what I mean? So I'm like, hey, I don't know what he's expecting to come in here and see me being a big boss man. He's probably ain't gonna get that, but no, it was awesome, man. But dude, I'm excited to have this call with you today, and then dude, let's let it rip, man. So
100%.
Let's get what you got.
I mean, let's start off with what inspired you to pursue your career, and what kept you going through tough times.
That's good. Couple things to that. I would say that the idea of, being inspired or jumping in, I think a lot of times people think that it's going to be they're just going to have this gravitational pull.
Epiphany.
Of just to be, inspired and motivated. And I just think that that's most people never really get going because they're waiting for something that doesn't exist. Right. It was for me, I said all the time, it's like when I started the roofing company, I was just in the hole. Like I was broke as hell. I had no money. I had a big real estate kind of transaction deal that I was working through that had kind of gone belly up, and the investors pulled out. And it was just like it felt like everything was just like crumbling, right? I was spiraling. I always tell the story about Ryan, right? Saying, you start a roofing company. I'm like, bro, I'm too cute for roofing, man. Come on now. But no, really, that was it, right? It was like, I was more inspired by the fear of being broke than I was inspired by where I could take it, right? Because at that moment in time, I didn't see this. I saw it. Like, it's weird, right? Because it's like I've always wanted what we have, but I didn't know that it would be in roofing. I didn't know, right? And I think for so many people, they're looking for this passion, and they're thinking that this passion's going to just inspire them and motivate them, and everything's just going to click. And that's just not life, right? It just doesn't. For me, I think that when you put like all of yourself into something and you commit to something. Now, obviously, like, I don't know that I would have been a painter or things like that, right? Yeah. Like, I've got a skill set, and I think part of it is just being super aware of your skill set, right? So for me, it's like I know I like leading, and I liked sales, and I liked marketing, and, and it happened to be that roofing kind of fit in that niche as far as, a business that it was like I didn't need money to start, right? Like I always say, the best thing about the roofing industry is it's low barrier to entry. The worst thing about the roofing industry is that it's low barrier to entry, right? So anyone could, I feel like 100 companies have popped up in the last 2 years, you know what I mean? And so for me, though, it wasn't like I was inspired by roofing or I was motivated by roofing. It was more like I needed to find something that could pay me as fast as possible. And I knew with roofing, I could knock on a door, I could sell one. If I had, if we got into the insurance process, like all of that, but I was more on the lines of just like, all right, I got to do something. And, I knew enough that roofing was a revenue stream that people had found success in. So it's kind of like I just landed in it. And then, from there, I think the thing that keeps you motivated, right? We just talked about this today and going through kind of the RPM training, 100%. Right? Is that, you've got to have purpose. You've got to have, a vision for where you want to go, because with no purpose, there is no end. And with no end, we have no drive. We have nothing that's pulling us to it, right? We're just kind of keep pushing and pushing. And, I say for me, like I even know when, the company has gone stagnant before, right? Not stagnant, but it's like it's not making its growth, as I would like. Yeah. But so much of that is because like I lose my vision sometimes, right? And you got to get back centered. You got to come back to why am I doing this? And I think for a lot of young owners, like once they, year one, you are driven, you're fired up. Year two, driven, fired up. You get into year three and you start accomplishing some things. You lose the vision for where you're going sometimes. And it's kind of like getting that purpose and just recentering. And so for me, it's like the thing that's, when I first started, it was like I wanted a watch, I wanted a fast car, and I wanted a house. Yeah. As much as I want to say I wanted to build all this and have this big purpose and this big impact, it was like that came as I grew it and as I realized that was something that I could create. But in the beginning, it was just like, I just want these things selfishly, right? Yeah. They made me feel significant. It made me feel like something. And, so I had a lot of drive to get them. And then once I got them, then it was like I kind of feel like I just looked around and it's like, man, where are we going? You know what I mean? Like, what's that next thing? And I even feel like in that sometimes too, it's like you start to, step into different things and get involved in more things. And it's like you're trying to find something to fulfill that thing that you're looking for. And so you think that it might be a different business and there might be another partnership. And so you're like looking around and you're digging and then next thing you know, you look up and you're involved in 10 different things and nothing's really paying you. Right. Yeah. And you've got no drive, you've got no purpose. You're just like kind of just monotonous going through the motions. And, so for me, it's like what helps me is just really, really getting clear on like what is that vision and what is that purpose. And it's understanding that could change every 6 months. Yeah. It could change every 12 months, or it could stay the same for 5-10 years. Right. But it's like you've got to start to like start with that end in mind of like, what is the end goal? Where do I want to go? Or at least as far as I can see right now. Yeah. That's awesome, man. And I feel like that happens with everybody. You know what I'm doing? 100%. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. It does. You got to have it.
Yeah, and for me, when that happens, what helps me the most is just like talking to people, and then I'm just like, oh shit, I remember what I'm doing now.
Yeah. Well, you need
I mean?
you need inputs.
Yeah.
That's what I always tell anyone that's like getting into the self-development and trying to really reshape themselves is like you have to constantly be taking inputs from different people, from books, from audibles, from podcasts. It's like you have to constantly be like overloading information when you get going, because for most of us, we've spent 20 years not consuming anything that's building us. And so it's really easy to fall back on those defaults and fall back on the negativity and like all of those things. And so you have to constantly be consuming information that is like in the direction of where you want to go.
100%. And that brings up my next question. What key decisions have had the greatest impact on your business success? Whether that was hiring somebody or shit, even going to like a mastermind or like what was it for you?
That's good. I mean, I would say like one of the obviously most impactful was hiring a coach, right? And I hear people again talk about it all the time of like, oh man, I want to get into this thing, or I want to find a coach. And I think for so many, they think that this coach is just going to appear.
Yeah. Like
right?
a genie.
Like a genie, right? And they're just like, oh, well, I want this coach, but I just haven't found somebody that I want yet. And it's like, well, how hard are you looking? Because no different than, you design your game plan or your business plan. Like you need to start constantly looking at your life as all designing, right? It's like we spend all this time and energy mapping out a business plan, but then we don't spend any time and energy on a spouse.
Yeah.
To like map that out. You know what I mean? Like, what does my ideal, spouse look like? What do I want them to look like? What do I want them to talk like? What do I want them to know? What do I want them to be involved in? Like, we have to start to map those things out and get clarity on every aspect of it. And so a coach is no different. It's like when you're looking for a coach to grow your business, you need to go like, what kind of coach are you looking for? What kind of result are you looking for? How long is that commitment for? What is their expertise? What are the things that, and I think another thing is where, so many people get into the coaching side and like they're looking at one coach as like a solve all.
Yeah.
And it's not, right? It's like I have a coach for, I've got my pastor who's a mentor of mine. So like that's kind of my faith side and, spirituality side and like a relationship goal, right? How him and his wife are, I've got, Ryan, who's my business guy. I got a lot of different coaches that or mentors that have really helped shape me and guide me. And like, they all have different qualities and traits that are different from the other one. And so for me, I'm like, one of the most impactful decisions I ever made was 100% getting a coach and looking and seeking for that coach. Because like when I found Ryan, I wasn't like, he didn't just like pop up and was like, hey man, like you need coached. You know what I mean? Like I had to like get in front. I had to find him, but didn't even know it was him. Right?
Yeah. How did you find him?
Yeah. So I actually there was a kid that I was friends with that had moved up to Boston. He was a real estate guy. And it was right when I was starting my, real estate journey. And, I started trying to build my wholesaling business and all that. And this kid had sent me Ryan's profile. And it was funny because actually, like, before that, I flew out to Arizona for like a real estate mastermind, spent everything I had legitimately. You know what I mean? Wow. Like you hear that story all the time, but it's like I legitimately had $6,000 in the bank and like $4,000 on credit cards, and the course was $10,000, right? And just flew out, right? And but I don't have attachments. I don't have kids or a wife or anything like that. So it's like I can figure out if I had to make $10,000 again somehow, I will. You know what I mean? And so jumped in and went out there and came back and started getting my momentum. But like I still like even with that, like it hadn't really clicked for me yet. Like I had that mentorship, but I wasn't. It was a very standardized coaching, right? It was like, here's our training videos. And this was like before all this shit was like school and all that wasn't around then, you know what I mean? And so it was like very standard, just kind of basics. It wasn't like I felt like, and the guy was out in Arizona. And so like, I know me, and like, even when I was bodybuilding, like I had to have a coach that was local.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like for me, I'm the kind of guy, like I want to get in front and obviously in today's society, it was pre-COVID. So Zoom wasn't as popular, like all of those things. But, I knew that where I was at, like I wanted to find somebody in Columbus that could help me, really, step into that next version of me. And, and then Ryan he popped my buddy, the kid shared the post with me. And then Ryan had like some 7-day challenge that he was doing for like lead genning.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And his wasn't niched towards real estate, but it was like kind of it was kind of an all marketing aspect.
Mm-hmm.
And so I did his 7-day challenge. And then, on there, he'd be talking about, psychedelics and business, and dude was swole.
Stuff,
and I'm like,
yeah.
dang, dude, I want to be like this guy,
Yeah.
And I was just blowing him up on Facebook, blowing him up on Instagram. And then finally, when I got to meet him, he had called me, and initially I was kind of reaching out to him. Finally, we get on the phone one day, and he's like, man, like, what can I help you with, right? And I'm like, I don't really know, you know what I mean? But I was like, but I know what I want.
Yeah.
Right. I'm like, I want to be successful. I want to build a business. I want to do these things, and I had clarity around where I wanted to get to, just no clue how I was going to get there. And, then he's like, all right, well, let's grab a coffee. So we meet and get a coffee and stuff. And, and at this point, like I kind of had a business, but I didn't, and I'll never forget, Ryan's like, well, I'll be honest with you, man. Like, I don't really coach people that don't have businesses, and like, you don't really have a business. You know what I mean? And I'm like, oh, well. I'm like, yeah, but I'm willing to do anything, man. Like, he's like, well, if you can come up with $1,000 a month, I'll coach you. And I've still paid him $1,000 a month every month since then. Yeah. So even now, 5 years in, still investing into that, because it's like I think that's where so many people, kind of make a mistake, is that they are timid to invest into a coaching or invest into themselves.
100%.
Right. But then they turn around and they're asking somebody to invest in them.
Yeah.
Or invest in their product.
Yeah.
And so it's like, until you can sell yourself on someone else, how are you ever going to expect to sell someone else on you?
Yeah. I had some buddies, and I was explaining that to them, that I was paying somebody to basically speak to me and just coach me. They're like, what the hell do you mean? Like, that just isn't right. That's not right. Blah, blah, blah. If you want a real mentor, you shouldn't have to pay them.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts behind that?
I mean, I think there's a few sides to it, right? One is that you pay attention to what you invest in.
Yeah.
Right. Like, I always look at, like, if you're a faith-based person, right, I'm like, tithing is the ultimate form of a mentorship.
Yeah.
Right. You go to church and you pay your 10% and you invest into your faith. You invest into that. And like, if you're investing into your faith every week or every month or whatever it is, then you're going to kind of be forced to go, right? Because if you're investing in something, you're going to want to be a part of it. You're going to want to see it. You're going to want to see it through and practice it, right? And so, the Bible's been doing it forever, right? The Scripture's been, religion has always had some form of a tithing, which is like giving back in a sense.
Yeah.
And investing in yourself to learn, and I've heard a lot of people say the same thing. And, and before I got into it, I didn't know that mentorship stuff existed. I really do feel like it blew up like the last 10 years. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And, but I think that people that haven't experienced or haven't gone through the challenges of building a business or, growing a product or whatever it is, right? If they haven't gone through those things and like really spent time learning and crafting and studying and again and again and repeat, right? Like, if they haven't gone through that, then they don't understand how valuable intellectual property is.
Yeah.
Right? 100%. They just think you're just going to tell me something that that doesn't make no sense. Why would I invest in that? I can just go learn it myself. It's like, yeah, but you won't.
Yeah.
Or you would know it.
Literally.
You know what I mean? And so I think a lot of it is just that shift for most people of just, understanding that, intellectual property of somebody else is worth a dollar amount.
Yeah.
And it's also like opportunity cost, right? It's like, I would much rather pay somebody $10,000 to learn what's going to make me 30 or even 10, but then I can do it again and make another 10 and I'm in the black on it.
Yeah.
Right. It's like, I'm always willing to pay for knowledge and especially accelerate my growth.
Yeah, and it's like the story of the Boilermaker, I think it is. Have you heard that one? I believe it's like, so it was like this business, they had a bunch of boilers, they needed the boilers to run their business, and there was a bunch of problems with the boilers.
Yeah.
They didn't know what the hell was going on, so they called around and they met this guy who was an expert in boilers.
Yeah.
So the guy comes to their factory, walks up to it and pulls out his hammer and knocks it once, and the Boilermakers are fixed.
Yeah.
And then he walks out, and he pulls out his clipboard, writes him an invoice, and they say it was $10,000. And they're like, $10,000? All you did was tap the boiler.
Yeah.
And he was like, well, yeah, I did tap the boiler, but you're paying for the 30 years of experience that took me to learn how to fix the boiler. And
that's good.
That's basically how I view mentorship.
Yeah.
Maybe I may not know what a boiler is, but
but it's true though, right? It's like you know, and I learned that a lot when I got into, mentorship stuff, right? Because I used to think that if it wasn't a 12-month program and I was paying it out over the next 12, like you always put so much more value on something that takes time.
Yeah.
Right? Where a big shift for me was like, I don't want to learn in 12 months. I want to learn in 30 days. How fast can you help me learn? I'll pay for that. You know what I mean? And so it is that accelerated rate of the knowledge, the experience, all of those things. And people that think a certain way like that, right? And this can be anybody, right? I mean, I thought like that, but and I still struggle with it, right? I'm just like holding so much of my value in time.
Yeah.
Right? Of just like, oh man, I got to make sure if I didn't work 10 hours today, like I don't really feel like I did anything.
Exactly.
Versus knowing like me going and speaking to the team today, there's only 6-7 guys in there, but like I'm sharing things with them, which in the moment is just like something I love to do. It's fun. And it doesn't feel like it's an income producing activity, but it is, because I'm teaching 6-7 guys that are in the business that are going to go out, implement this thing, and then make more money.
Yeah.
Right. So like my time to do it is irrelevant. It's just the impact that you have with that time.
100%. And that goes into this question, actually. What advice do you have for other business owners on building a strong team?
Don't think that, every person is the right person. Right. When I first started, there was a lot of like, I'd hire for a pulse.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm like, if they're willing to go knock and they're willing to go do these things, like in the beginning, you do kind of have to do that, right? You've got to, as a leader, you're practicing your influence and you're bringing people in and you're selling people on you. So there's a lot of it is just like the reps that you have to get in. But, I've always had this thought in my mind, like, oh man, I'm just grateful for people to work for me.
Yeah.
Right. And that's just, it's kind of a tainted way of thinking, because at some point you have to transition and be like, no, wait, like they should be grateful that I'm giving them a job.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that's not to say that in a conceited way by any means. It's
100%.
like no different than if I went and worked for Williams Energy where I used to work, like I was grateful that I got a job from them. I was grateful that they hired me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like, but as entrepreneurs, a lot of times, especially when we kind of bootstrapped it ourselves, we don't always see ourselves in the lens that people see, right? So there's a lot of people that be like, man, I want to work there. That would be awesome. And then like you give them the chance, but for us, it's always this feeling of like, man, I'm just glad someone wants to be here, right?
Yeah,
so
it's like everyone get on.
Right, 100%. You'll take anybody, right? But to build a good team, you have to get to the point where you are no longer hiring people that have to learn to catch up.
Yeah.
Right. You have to get to the team where get to the point where you transition, and now it's more about bringing people in. It's not just loving them for who they can be.
Yeah.
Right. That's a hard thing, right?
Yeah.
You want to build everybody. Like I wanted to see everybody go to the promised land with us, right? But
Yeah.
unfortunately, that's just not it.
Yeah.
But like I've had a lot of emotional animosity dealing with leaving people or firing people or people not making it or all of that, because it's like in my mind when I bring somebody in, like I really do see it like they're going to be with me forever.
Yeah.
And unfortunately that's just not the case,
Yeah.
and so when you're a young business owner, it's like in the beginning, you're going to hire and you're going to make some mistakes, but one, don't be scared to hire and make mistakes, because you're going to be building your playbook off of what you did wrong so that you can not do that again the next time.
Yeah.
Right. And then the other side of it is, you've got to shift to bringing any lead, and like you've got to hold yourself to this high standard, to this purpose, to this vision. And then if people don't align with that, don't bring them on. Don't waste your time with people that you got to build up and grow and do all that. Because it's like there are the right people out there that are the right people. They are ready to go. They know the things, and they have a strong work effort. You know what I mean? And so often it's like, oh man, like they're working hard. It's hard for me to, get rid of them. And it's like, if we look at a sports team, it don't matter if you're the hardest worker in the room. If you're playing against Michael Jordan, you're going to lose. So it doesn't matter how hard you work. It does come down to a skill set.
Yeah, it shifts to how much actual value you can provide.
100%.
What would your advice be to business owners who want to step into that leader position, but they don't have the confidence to do it?
Yeah. Well, I would say one, if you've got to look around you, because so often we feel like we don't have the skill set yet to lead, but there's people following us. Damn. Right? You don't need to, if people are already listening and they're intrigued and they want to be a part of it, then that's all the affirmation you need of that you're a leader. Because I've still felt like that, right? It's hard for me to talk to the group sometimes because I'm like, man, what if they think it's not good, and them just wasting people's time, and if they're not paying attention, and it was a big shift for me to be like, no, man, these guys are here for you, they're here with you, you know what I mean, and they're already looking up to you. So any advice or any influence that you want to give to them, they're willing to receive, and so you have to flip that script to really thinking nah, they're here. I'm here. We're here. Let's go get it. You know what I mean? That's a big thing. Yeah.
That's a bar. My life just flashed before my eyes. I was like, holy shit. Maybe I was a leader.
Well, 100%, right? Yeah. You always are, because you're you might not be the CEO leader, but you could be the sales manager leader. You could be the the operations leader. You can be the 100%. Financial leader. A leader isn't always the guy at the top. I think everybody has the opportunity to lead inside the organization. And the quicker that you can empower everybody to lead, the faster your business will grow. Because that's the hardest part. When you have a strong, powerful leader, people are timid to lead next to them.
100%. Not only in the organization. I was thinking throughout my life and stuff.
Everywhere, man. People are listening, dude. We all got, there's every one of us has somebody out there that is I always say a page behind us. And to them, we're a leader.
Wow.
Right? And I always say the leader test is, right? It's have you ever walked past a piece of trash on the ground or in an office or wherever it is, right? And I always say, what do you do? Mm-hmm. Do you walk past it or do you pick it up? Well, if you pick it up, you're a leader.
Yeah.
Because you want to leave things better than you found them. That's what leaders do.
Wow. That is a bar. Wow. What's your vision for the future of the business and life?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. It's a big question. For me, for me, the vision side, there's a couple sides to it, but as far as the business, I want to, or at least the vision that I can see for the next few years is to, really dial in, the systems, processes, really create the playbook to what we've done here. Mm-hmm. Right? Create something that it's I know I can pick this up and I can set it here, or I can set it there. It's that is my hyper focus right now, is really building a replicatable organization. And in the process of doing that, start to empower, the people inside of it to step up and eventually, have someone else be the CEO.
Yeah.
Right. And that could come quicker than you would think, 100%. You know what I mean? And because for me, it's I know in order for me to continue to build the business, just like we got into that purpose and stuff earlier, right? It's I kind of hit the things that I wanted to do. So now I have to realign and be now I'm thinking bigger, I'm thinking different. My purpose is different now than it was 3 years ago. And now, I want to be the platform company in the Midwest that starts to, I've had a lot of private equity conversations, and, for a minute, I really do feel I was kind of settling, right? Of oh man, we can find a strategic partner that wants to come in and buy some equity and allow me to be CEO and all of that, and build the business. And the more I've had those conversations, the more I realized I was willing to accept something I didn't want in order to make it easier.
Wow.
Right. It was like because I hadn't seen what that level looks like when I go and buy a business, and I haven't seen really what that level looks like when, when we've got 20 companies behind us. Right. I couldn't see that. And so for me, it was like, well, it would be easier to just find the partner that can like show me that framework versus saying like, no, this is what the fuck I want, and I'm going to go get that. You know what I mean? And so that is my thing. I want to be, the platform company in the Midwest that starts to acquire and, really headman our own roofing roll up and, and start to acquire other companies. And, I want to be to 100 million between, the collective of top line revenue across all the businesses, But I mean, I would like to say by the end of 25.
Yeah.
I mean, that's huge, but that's really where I am, because I know that like that shit can happen so fast. It's like you wrap up 2 or 3 companies and you've got, your arbitrage and a multiplier. It's like before you know it, you could have a total asset worth 100 million or more. And that's the goal for me now. It's starting to empower the people here, help them to see the vision of what I want from them, help them step in and actually lead this company better than I am, because I'm a vision guy. I'm not a manager guy.
Yeah.
Right. And once the company gets past the vision, now you've got to have the systems.
Yeah.
Right. Because it's like the vision can get you inspired. We always say we run on vibes. Right. It's like that worked for a long time. Yeah. But now it doesn't work. Now we have to become a professionalized company. And I know that in order for us to do that, there's probably going to be somebody in that seat that's going to be better than me. But I'm going to be on to the next thing to then line up what that next move is. Yeah. So, that is the vision. Wow. And then, from a personal side, as that goes, like I love the philanthropy stuff, love the nonprofit, right? So my goal is to, through the nonprofit, which is the Foster the Future, right? So we help foster families and things like that. And my goal with that is I want to put a roof in all 50 states. I want to do a roof for a foster family in every state.
That's awesome.
So like that's another big vision goal for me.
That's huge. What would you say? I mean, a lot of people don't know their vision.
Yeah.
Like, what would you say to people that are trying to figure that out?
Yeah, it's a great question. When it comes to vision, I think that the hardest part with vision or purpose, right? Either one of them, they're kind of the same, right? With the ones you see yourself there. The other one is why you're getting there. But I think that one of the biggest pieces is, really asking yourself, what do you want? Why do you want it? Why do you really want it?
Yeah.
Right? What is this going to do for me? What is this going to do for people around me? Right? And is this what I really want?
Yeah.
And really kind of go through that, because what happens is majority of us have a filter that is, we'll do more for others than we'll do for ourselves.
Oh, wow.
Naturally, right? So if I like to ask you and say, hey, man, what's your purpose and vision? It's probably going to line up somewhere around you wanting to help out your family, you wanting to do things
help other people,
right? And so we get caught up in that. And it's like, oh, well, my vision or my purpose is to, help empower and grow people and be an impact and be a thought leader and all that stuff. And it's like, yeah, that's all awesome, but that's for everybody else. What do you want? Because there's something that doing that for other people does for you, and it's one of your 6 human needs, right? We all either want to be, contribution, growth, uncertainty, certainty, significance, right? Like all of these are those, and if you look it up, Tony Robbins' 6 human needs, like essentially it says that all of us at some point have one of these 6. Maybe it's 1, maybe it's 2, maybe it's 3, maybe it's one of them, maybe it's all 6 at the same time.
Yeah.
Right. And what he says is that it's those human needs that is a driver. So even if you want to help people and empower people and impact people and do something for your daughter and do something for your son, right? Like, yes, you want that, and that's part of it, but what does that feeling do for you?
Oh, wow.
Right.
Yeah.
For me, like, and this was a big like awareness thing for me, right? Because I kind of always thought like I want to empower guys, I want to grow guys. And, a mentor of mine was like, well, yeah, but what does that do for you? And, and I was like, well, it makes me feel good. Why does it make you feel good? Right. And he gets into this. Right. And I'm like, oh, man. And I was like, well, and I guess it's significance. Right. But we're scared to say that because it feels selfish. So for me to say, I want to do all this and grow a business and impact people because I want to be on Forbes under 40. But that sounds selfish. Yeah. That sounds arrogant.
Oh, yeah.
Right. But it has nothing to really do with that. It's just like that feeling of empowering and growing people it does give me significance.
Yeah.
And like that is something that empowers me. And it's okay to admit that, because we have to know what is our driver. Because if we don't understand what our driver is, then every opportunity that is disguised as the opportunity, and if it triggers that driver, we're going to think we want it.
Yeah.
Right. So for me, if someone's like, hey man, we want to partner up and we want you to run coaching calls and we want you to be a part of this thing and be involved, and like, I'm like, yes, because they're hitting every significant lever inside of me that makes me feel like that's the thing that I want to do. That's why you have to have that purpose and vision, so that you can pull yourself back and say, okay, does this align with the vision? Does it align with my purpose? Because that's your filter now.
Yeah.
Right. And then it says from there, it's like, okay, if it does or doesn't, is it just triggering the human needs that fires me up, that makes me want to jump into something?
Yeah.
So it's like we have to understand what those things do for us in order to make the decisions that, are going to guide us in the direction of where we want to go.
That's interesting, because the way I learned vision is like it has to be other people focused. How are you going to benefit other people? How are you going to make an impact for other people in the world? But listening to that, that's not the case almost.
Well, it's still, the thing is that it can still it can still be, it should be about people.
Yeah.
Right. But there's something that, like, for, if someone's, if you're listening to this and
to you.
Right. It is a benefit to you.
Yeah.
Right. It's like, it's not a, it has to be, or it could be. It's like, no. There's something that when you do that, right, you hear a lot of people say like, oh, well, we had a guy in the meeting earlier today, right? And he was like, I said, what's your vision, right? Or what's your purpose? Oh, I want to, my purpose is to be able to make my son's life better than my life, and, be able to put a roof over his head and help him live this great life. And it's like, okay, that's awesome. That's a great purpose. Yeah. But what feeling do you get when you do that for somebody?
That makes sense.
Right? So for them, it might be the growth. It might be the contribution. It might be the certainty knowing that their child's safe. It might be significance knowing that they're providing something for somebody.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah,
that's awesome. I got one more for you.
Okay.
What was your first big breakthrough moment when you were growing your business? Like what?
Yeah.
You know
what
I mean?
Yeah, great question.
You're like, holy shit, this is gonna work.
Yeah. Well, it's some of that, but, so much of it, I think, is realizing that it doesn't have to be as hard as you think it does. Right? It's like we are pre-wired to see our own hero's journey. And if you look at any book or movie, right, there's always a hero's journey.
Yeah.
Right? There's always a main character who is struggling, who finds a guide, who doesn't listen, who then listens, who then gets beat or loses to an opponent or loses the girl or whatever it is, loses everything, right? And then they learn from their lessons. They, get the momentum back, and then they go out and they fucking make it happen.
Yeah.
So because that is in every movie, because that it is in most books, right? We are pre-wired to think, I can't have success until I fail here. I can't achieve this, I can't achieve the top of the mountain until I've learned to live at the bottom of the mountain. And so what happens is subconsciously we are keeping ourselves from achieving the thing we want, because we're looking for the reasons why we shouldn't have it. We're looking for where we should fail. We're looking for, like, have I taken enough licks to win yet?
Yeah.
Right? Look at Rocky. Right? Dude just gets pummeled and comes out and wins.
Yeah.
That's the hero's journey.
Wow.
Every book, right?
Every
single thing is, right? And so, and that's the, even from a marketing standpoint, as a company, like, you have to, as a company, you are not the main character. You are the guide, and your client is the main character. So your job is to help them get to where they want to be. That's what we do. That's what as a company, you should be marketing to them, not as you being the main character, but them being the main character, and how you're going to help them achieve this thing that they want, either away from fear, right, or towards it. or away from the pain,
Yeah.
or the
Towards pleasure.
Towards pleasure. Yep.
Wow.
And so I think that's one of the biggest things, man. Is just like we create a lot of stories in our head about what our reality looks like, and we all have these stories. And for most people, I mean, myself included, right? I just say most people in general because as a basis, a lot of people haven't transitioned, right? And I still do it, but for so much of it is that we just tell ourselves this story to why we haven't gotten it yet, or when we should get it, or when we deserve it, and so it's all these whys for the end result. And in order for us to actually accept that, we have to look back and say, well, like, shit, I've been wrong.
Yeah.
For a long time. And most of us, our ego, it holds us back from actually stepping into that next version of ourselves, because if we were to step into that next version and really admit that we were wrong and transition from who we are, transcend from who we are to who we want to be, that means that 90% of our life was a lie.
Yeah.
And we don't want to admit that. And so we stay stuck until we have learned enough or gotten beat down enough to transition the way we think. And once you can do that, then, and that's not to say it's easy, it's effortless, it's always going to be, but it doesn't get harder, it doesn't get easier, you just get better.
Yeah.
Right? And so much of it is that, man. It's just like, really, you have to, for me, the aha moment was just the mindset of like, I make it harder than it has to be.
Wow.
You know what I mean? And when I was able to start to transition that, and I'm still not all the way through that, right? I'm battling that all the time. That's what I'm saying, like consuming content of seeing what people do and thinking like the power of manifestation is so real and so powerful that like people would get more out of sitting down and closing their eyes and thinking about what they want their life to look like when they're 95 years old than going out and hustling all day. If you can spend time to really, spend time to really envision it. I heard something about Carnegie this morning, right? And they're saying that like he would spend 60-70% of his day thinking, and like most people would think that being unvaluable, but like he was solving problems in his head constantly.
Yeah, wow.
And so we don't do that enough. I don't do it enough. I don't sit still enough and just think. And I think that's where. It's, you get into state and all those things, right? But it's like when we can, change our state, right? Change our philosophy, change our physiology, right? Change the language, change our beliefs. When we start to shift those things, our state shifts. And when our state is shifted, we're able to literally create quantum leaps, to create a, I would say it's creating a vision, creating a memory of the future. Right. And it's like, we tie so much of the things that happen for us to, I did this, I did X, so I get B, right? Or I get this and I get that because I did this action. And it's like, the action is probably part of it, and it is, but how much of what you achieved was actually in the state that you were in when you thought about it?
That's brilliant.
Right. And then maybe I'm fucking bullshit. Maybe none of this is real. You know what I mean? But it helps me, right? It is things that I have learned that have helped me work through it. And it's like, I just think that we're not really coached enough on really how powerful your state is. Like when you go to a Tony Robbins event, there's a reason they got you fucking jumping up and down and hooping and hollering, is because like your state gets changed. You're not in the state that you walked in.
Yeah.
So when your state is changed and now you start thinking of powerful things and you start thinking that you can achieve things and you're like manifesting and you're literally starting to shape the way the universe is working around you and working for you. And that is a powerful thing. And I think that was an aha moment for me of like, it's not about the activity as much of it's about the thought.
Wow. Yeah. What we hold in mind tends to manifest. That's what I read today.
Right. It's true.
Yeah. Wow. A lot of people, because before I learned about like mindset and stuff like that, I would like, because like all these gurus on Instagram's like, you gotta have the mindset, you gotta have mindset. And I was like, well, how do I get rich?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, whole time it was mindset.
It was mindset, dude.
They were lying.
It is. It is, man. And it's, it's one of those things that you're going to achieve it at your pace.
Yeah.
And it's an everyday battle. Like, I'm not sitting here today saying I figured it out.
Yeah.
I mean, whatever day it was, Wednesday,
Yeah.
you try to have a meeting with me. I'm like, it ain't the fucking day, Rhys. You know what I mean? Like, it happens. You know what I'm saying? But it's like, you know, you start to become better at your emotional reactivity, right? You being able to bounce back. Like, that's the most important thing. And that's what I was saying, like, just naturally being able to start to change your state, doing things, right? Like, when you can figure out ways to change your state, it might be going for a walk outside. It might be taking 15 deep breaths. It might be jumping up and down. It might be jumping jacks. It might be whatever it is. But when you're in this, you know, in the depths and you're down, it's not caffeine.
Yeah.
It's not a drug to get you hyped up and moving. It's your state.
Wow.
And we have to change our state in order to change the direction we're going to go or change our mindset.
Yeah. I mean, we're all searching for our individual truths. We're all trying to figure it out. So whatever works for you, I mean,
that's it.
Do it. You know
well, it's all about creating certainty.
Yeah.
Right?
100%.
Because certainty creates confidence. Confidence creates action. Like, things happen, right? And so everything comes down to a form of certainty.
A
like,
causes B causes C.
That's it, right?
Yeah.
And so it's so much of like what creates certainty for you, and what creates it for you might be different than me, right? I always say, like, if waking up in the morning and chugging a black cup of coffee, you know, creates certainty that your day is going to be good, then you should do that every day.
Yeah.
If drinking a bottle of water tells you that you're going to get smarter, and you know you tell this story to yourself, no one else has to know your story. Right? If you tell yourself these little things that create certainty for you, if it's waking up, like, that's why, you know, morning routines are so popular.
Yeah.
Right? Do this morning routine, do this morning routine, do this morning routine. Like, everyone tells you how to have your morning routine. And it's like, okay, those are great. And I think a morning routine is important. But the whole idea of a routine is to create certainty, because with structure and consistency, you get certainty. And now you're confident to go into your day. Right. And so it's just trying to say, like, what, and it's not going from 0 to 10. It's saying, like, all right, this morning I want to get up at 6:30. All right. Well, guess what? If you get up at 6:30 for 5 days in a row, reward yourself Saturday, sleep in till 7, 7:30, 8, whatever it is.
Yeah.
But, like, set yourself up for that. Right. And now all of a sudden you just did this task that you said you were going to do, and you did it, and boom, now you got certainty. Right. And now it's just now it's the compounding effect of that in order to try. What's the next thing? All right, man, I'm feeling really good, and I wake up and make my bed every day. Okay, cool. Well, when you've conquered that, what's the next thing?
Yeah. Wow.
And eventually it's not even about the routine anymore, because now you have more confidence. Right. It's like, you know, the stuff that Michael Jordan might have been doing before he got in the NBA probably changed at some point, because his confidence, you know, just resonated, and his belief in himself just increased. And all of a sudden he didn't have to go out and now guys that are great like him still do it, right? They constantly 100 free throws a day, right? Like, things like that. Or, you know, Kobe practicing at night, practicing in the morning, like, all of these things. Like, the great players or great business people, like, they never stop with it. You know, they might not be the same thing. It might not be the make my bed every day kind of thing, but it's like they have compounded so much certainty over time that it's like, I'm waking up and I'm just certain because I know that I can do it now.
100%. Was it Jordan who, like, went in his closet and was, like, repeating, "I am the greatest. I am the greatest." It was one of them that was doing that.
Yeah, dude, and it's powerful.
Yeah.
Right. And you know, they talk about Tony talks about it all the time. He's like, you know, affirmations are bullshit, because you can repeat something to yourself over and over and over again, but if your state doesn't reflect what you're repeating, then you're not going to get it.
100%.
Right. And so it's like, if you're saying, I'm the greatest, I'm the greatest, I'm the greatest, make sure that state is getting, you know, you're raising your state while you're going through that practice, so that your physiology's changing, your language is now changing, now your beliefs are there, because you're saying, I'm the greatest. One, your body has to be in that state to start to even consume it, right? Like, that's where, like, great speakers, when they get out on stage, like, they get people to stand up or sit down or move or not, like, they're doing things to just shift their state. So when they start to, you know, give them information, you know, they're consuming this information, and they're capturing a lot more of it, versus a state that's, like, not risen, not in the moment, right? And so now it's like, all right, your physiology changes, so that's going to start to shift your state, right? Now the language that you're saying, are you saying, I am capable of this, I can do it, whatever it is. And then on the other side is you know, and even on the language side, right? We talked about that today, right? Yeah. We're so often to look, we're quick to think about what we don't want, and allow that to create the space for what we do want, right? So if someone says, well, I don't want to get a speeding ticket, right? We're like, okay, it's not really that you don't want to get a speeding ticket, because you don't wake up and say, I don't want to get a speeding ticket today. It's like, no, you want to drive fast and reckless and not get pulled over. That's really what you want, because you know what I mean? And so it's like you have like, I don't want to get sick. Hope I don't get sick. I don't want to get sick. And it's like, stop saying that now you're thinking about what you don't want.
Yeah.
Think about, I want to be extremely healthy and in the best shape of my life.
Yeah. All the time.
Don't lean into the don'ts and the things that you don't want. Lean into that. So that's that part of the language side of like, listen to what you're saying. Right? But be careful what you say. You're always listening. Right.
Yeah.
And then the other side of that is just the belief system is saying, can you achieve that thing? Right. Tony Robbins calls it the triad. Right.
Yeah.
And he's like, it's the state, your triad. And what that is your physiology, your language, and then your beliefs. And it's like, if you can shift those three things, and then now you shift state, and now you can make changes.
Yeah, that's one big thing I learned recently. Like, sometimes I have this mantra I tell myself, and like my state would be low, and I'm like, I'm strong, I'm strong, I'm strong. And I like try to pull myself out of it. But yeah, that all makes great sense.
And even if you sit there, like you said, and pump your arms and breathe heavy, like it's hard to stay pissed.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, that's how quickly your state can change. And unconscious can change in a sec. There's no time limit to how fast your unconscious can change if you can tap into it.
Yeah. Wow. I mean,
Damn, bro.
This is powerful stuff, man.
Powerful stuff. That was good, man. I mean, we had almost an hour of questions, so that was really good.
Hell yeah, man. This was awesome.
Anything you want to leave them with? And what about you? Let's ask you a question.
What's that?
What is something that you can leave them with that you've learned over this past 2 years of working with me or working together, right? Like, it doesn't have to be directly from me, but like, what's just something in what's been an aha moment for you? What's been something that has shifted the way that you show up?
Definitely from the beginning, I'd say taking risk is a huge thing. I've developed this thing ever since I've been here, where it's like, something shows up that normally I would hide away from and just not deal with myself with. I literally will just throw myself at it.
That's good.
Because my life changed when I realized like the power of taking risks and the power of exposure. Just trying to expose myself to as many things as I can. Getting in the room with conversations you're having, conversations other people in the office are having. Just listening and, man, just getting myself out there.
That's good. So
trying new things, not being scared.
Yeah, exposure and risk.
Yeah.
Right? Those are two big things that you've got to step into in order to grow.
Literally.
Yeah. Well, dude, it's been awesome to watch you grow. I'm excited to, every week I see you getting better. I see you another unlock, and that's right. Like, that's for me is where, you talk about the purpose thing, right? Like, my purpose, I thought, was to help people build, right? I love watching that. I love watching what you're doing, but then recognizing that it makes me feel good about myself, knowing that I'm helping people achieve those things.
Yeah.
And, so that's been just an incredible experience, man. So I'm grateful for that, my man.
Awesome, man.
And, so that's for Rhys Bennett, the Reckless CEO. We out.